I'm not the man who married you anymore. My husband said that across our kitchen island on a random Thursday night, then took off his wedding ring and asked for mine back. 12 hours later, I walked back into our condo to grab something I'd forgotten and found a woman in his hoodie drinking coffee out of my mug. My name is Claire Donnelly. This is the night my marriage ended twice in one day. I'm 38, a dental hygienist in Portland, Maine. My husband, Marcus, was a project manager at a construction firm downtown. 12 years married, 14 together if you count the broke grad school years splitting a one-bedroom apartment. We'd built a real life. A condo overlooking the harbor, a trip to Iceland for our 10th anniversary, an easy decision to stay child-free. We bickered about money sometimes. Nothing that felt like cracks in a foundation. Except there were cracks. He'd started hitting the gym 5 days a week. He took calls out on the balcony, sliding the door shut even in November. His phone, which used to sit face up on the counter, started living face down in his jacket pocket. I noticed every single one of these things and talked myself out of noticing them 5 minutes later. That Thursday, I brought home Thai food. He didn't touch his plate, just turned his fork over and over until he set it down and said, "I'm not the man who married you anymore." I actually laughed. I thought it was a joke. His face never moved, and that stillness is what told me it wasn't. What does that mean? My voice came out flat. It means I've been unhappy a long time and didn't know how to say it. I think I knew within the first few years it wasn't right. 11 years of hoping it would feel different, I said. That's a long time to wait around for a feeling. He didn't answer. He reached up and started working his wedding band off his finger. His hands had gotten thicker from all that gym time, so it took a second, this awkward little tug that would have been comic if it wasn't the worst moment of my life. He set the ring on the granite. It made a small, flat click I can still hear if I let myself think about it. "I think you should give me yours too," he said. I laughed again, short and ugly. "You're joking. I just think it's better if we're both honest about where things stand." My hand shook so badly it took me 3 tries to get the ring off. 12 years, I'd worn it every day. Only ever taken it off once, for an MRI. I set it next to his. And for one absurd second, I thought he might push it back toward me. He didn't. "You should probably stay somewhere else tonight," he said. "This is my home too, Marcus." The name slipped out before I caught myself. Old habit, saying his name to anchor a sentence even mid-collapse. I packed a bag with shaking hands while he sat in the living room, the TV loud enough that he wouldn't have to hear me crying through the wall. I checked into a Holiday Inn Express off Congress Street that smelled like chlorine and old coffee, lying awake on top of the comforter, replaying the whole conversation until sunrise. Around 7 a.m., standing in the bathroom, I realized what I'd forgotten in my fog. My grandmother's recipe box, the wooden one, falling apart at the hinges, the only physical thing of hers I had left. I'd left it in the hall closet. I drove back, told myself 5 minutes, in and out. He never got up before 9 on a day off. It was barely 8:15. The condo felt too quiet, the specific kind of quiet with a held breath in it somewhere. Then I heard it, a woman's laugh, low and easy, from the kitchen. The clink of our mugs, the ones we'd bought at a pottery stall in Kennebunkport, being set down on the counter. I took my shoes off out of pure habit, some deeply ingrained instinct not to track anything onto the floor, even as that part of my life was actively ending. I walked down the hallway. A woman a few years younger than me sat cross-legged on our couch, wearing his old university hoodie, the navy one with the frayed cuff I used to steal on Sunday mornings, holding my coffee mug like she'd done it 1,000 times. Her hair was still damp, like she'd just showered in our shower with our towels. She saw me first, her face drained in real time. "Oh my God," she said, setting the mug down so fast coffee splashed onto the table. Marcus came around the corner, buttoning a clean shirt cuff, and when he saw me standing there, his expression wasn't guilt. It was annoyance, like I'd shown up early to a meeting he wasn't ready for. "You weren't supposed to be back yet," he said. I didn't have some perfect, devastating line ready. I just stood there with my car keys in my hand. I forgot something. It's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like. The woman mumbled something about needing to go, grabbed a coat off the hook by our door like she lived there, and left without meeting my eyes. Then it was just the two of us, the air still smelling faintly of her shampoo. "How long?" I asked. He rubbed the back of his neck, a tell I knew from a decade of arguments about his mother. "A few months." I knew that was a lie, the way you know a patient's lying about flossing. "Try again." A long pause. "It's been closer to a year of gym memberships and balcony calls and face-down phones. A year of me making excuses to my own sister about why he seemed distant. A year of me being the only person in that relationship who didn't know what the relationship actually was. That's when I noticed the folder on the side table, slightly too neat, the corner of a printed page sticking out. The kind of folder you keep things in when you've had time to plan. I walked over and flipped it open before he could stop me. Bank statements. A printout from a lawyer's office downtown. A spreadsheet in his handwriting, breaking down the condo's equity, our joint retirement account, a recent property appraisal I never knew he'd ordered. "What is this?" I asked, though I already knew. "So this doesn't get messy," he said. He hadn't fallen out of love in some sudden, sad, human way. He'd made a decision months ago and spent that whole time quietly building an exit plan, while I was over here wondering if we just needed more date nights. I took out my phone and started photographing every page. "What are you doing?" he said, and for the first time since I'd walked in, there was something other than annoyance in his voice. Nerves. "Documenting," I said, since apparently that's what we're doing now. He didn't try to stop me. I think some part of him understood he didn't have the moral high ground too. I left with my grandmother's recipe box under one arm and 41 photos on my phone. And I didn't cry again until I was sitting in my car in the parking garage with the engine off, forehead against the steering wheel. I called a family lawyer a coworker recommended. Sharp, no nonsense, office above a coffee shop on the east side. Within an hour of laying out the timeline, the photos, the appraisal he'd ordered without telling me, the year-long affair, she told me something I never forgot. He thought he was being smart by planning ahead. He just forgot planning ahead leaves a paper trail, and paper trails work both ways. Under Maine's marital property law, what's acquired during a marriage generally gets split. And a secret year-long relationship, plus a quietly commissioned appraisal, didn't exactly paint him in a sympathetic light to a judge. It took months, tense meetings, one mediation session where he sat across from me looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. In the end, I kept the condo. He bought out his half on an agreed timeline. I walked away with more than he ever expected, because the same documents he'd prepared to protect himself became the clearest record of exactly how long he'd been preparing to leave. What hurt more than the money was watching the story unravel in public. His mother, who I genuinely loved, who used to sign birthday cards, "Love, your other mom," called me in tears when she heard the real timeline. From him, not from me. Mutual friends who'd heard his soft, vague version eventually got the real one, with the dates and the appraisal and the year. I didn't have to say much. The facts did the talking. I moved into the condo full-time that fall, repainted the bedroom a color he always said he hated, started therapy a few blocks from my clinic, mostly to deal with the part of this that wasn't really about him at all, the part about why I'd spent a year quietly editing my own perception of reality so I wouldn't have to face an uncomfortable truth. It's been a year and a half now. My grandmother's recipe box sits on the counter where I see it every morning. I make her ginger snap recipe some weekends, just for myself. I started a pottery class on Tuesday nights, something I'd always meant to do. I see my sister more than I have in years. Here's what I learned. The people who plan their exit in secret are rarely as careful as they think they are. Paper trails and paperwork always tell the truth eventually. And sometimes the moment someone tries to take everything from you is the exact moment they hand you, the clearest proof of who they really were all along. If this story hit close to home, I'd love to hear from you. Drop your city or state in the comments. I read every one. And if you want more real stories like this every week, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. It genuinely means everything to this channel. Until next time, trust what you already know, even when it's inconvenient.